Well, after a week of civil unrest, I have to say that I am greatly disillusioned to be having this podcast and to be talking about the things that we're going to be talking about. So let's just say hello to the Gazelle. Gazelle?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all everybody on my OnlyFans. Good evening, and let's hope you enjoy the podcast tonight. I know it's a bit of a sad subject, but it needs to be spoken about, so we need to do that. Indeed. And Statsman.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask the Gazelle, I need a refund. I've unsubscribed from your OnlyFans, mate. I'm not impressed.
I'm not impressed.
You've not had the mankini on or nothing like that?
Yeah, but I'm using AI to enhance everything. I thought you'd have been absolutely stunned.
No, that's why I'm thinking there's something not right with that. So I've unsubscribed, mate. Can I have a refund?
Oh, no, you're not getting a refund. I think it is. The guy, I'm Amazon. You're not getting a refund.
Worth asking, wasn't it?
It's worth asking, yeah, but you're not getting a refund.
No, thanks, mate.
Oh,
okay.
Gosh. Refund on OnlyFans. I can imagine that with, you turn around and you just, OnlyFans is mostly women. And you turn around and say, I don't like the look of you. I want a refund. Too late now, kiddo. Too late.
Well, I'll tell you what. Tell you what, there, Stats, you're the first one that's asked for a refund after you've seen the tag. I'm amazed at that. But anyway, it's all right. We'll look into it. Don't worry.
Okay. Sad subject. This is a sad subject. When you get the Russian embassy of the UK in the UK commenting on what's going on. And what they've said is, and I'm quoting direct from the tweet, we keep hearing groundless accusations against our country from the United Kingdom for allegedly suppressing dissent and censorship, as well as vociferous calls to adhere to democratic governance practices and respect human rights. However, it is now up to the UK authorities and police to stay within the confines of the law. It must be recalled that people have every right to express their disagreement with the government policies. Now, this is coming from Russia. In this context, Russia calls on London to refrain from any unjustified or unproportionate use of violence against protesters and ensure their right to freedom of assembly. How about that? Okay.
He's just clown world. He's just playing games, Russia, aren't they? To be fair, they're probably in the background trying to stoke what we do with other countries, don't we? But to blame them for all this is just ridiculous, isn't it?
I know. And what about Elon Musk? He put out a tweet in direct response to Starmer's video saying, basically, aren't you supposed to protect all parts of the community? And that one has actually caused a lot of problems because one man is bigger than this government. He's bigger and he controls communications. His Starlink communications are phenomenal. But anyway, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, he should be protecting law-abiding citizens. I think that's probably a lot of the problems that have led up to this because they haven't been, have they?
No, they haven't. But do you think, well, let's put it this way. Do you think this is a cancer of a bigger problem?
Definitely.
Yeah, it seems to be metastasizing. And I don't believe that it's actually going to stop. Now,
not with the way they're handling it now.
We have never condoned violence. We have never advocated for violence. But it appears that that kind of behavior is what is getting the government's attention. Now, right or wrong, is it an excuse to covertly bring in certain forms of restriction of freedom from this government? Anybody want to chip in on that one?
Well, I'd say it definitely is. There has to be an agenda. When you're coming out with the rhetoric that Keir Starmer is using, he should be saying something like, as the Prime Minister of this great country, let's just try to calm things down. Let's stop this now. Give me some time to look at your issues. But he's not. He's stoking the fire.
Yeah.
There's nobody. I'll just go on to one thing here
Go ahead.
that caught my ear today. So it didn't catch me ear. I was looking at these.
What, like Donald Trump?
Yeah. No, nobody's made this connection yet. I've not seen it anywhere, right? Sunderland, Labour. Bristol, Labour. Liverpool, Labour. London, Labour. Weymouth, Labour. Rotherham, Labour. Tamworth, Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, Southport, Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, all Labour strongholds. So the common denominator is that they're all Labour. So far right. Keir Starmer said far right. These far right people are being bussed into all these staunch Labour strongholds. Yeah, right. No pun intended there. Yeah, but right. Is that a coincidence?
It can't be.
They're all Labour strongholds. And that man is putting out these, I'd say, stoking the fire with the comments that he's coming out with.
So are you saying that he's pouring oil over troubled waters?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he is. I mean, he should be calm in this situation.
Well, he should be showing leadership, but this is he's like he's coming in with jackboots, to stamp on these things, and that's not the way. I don't believe that they're actually listening. That's what I think, and because who was it? I think it was Churchill that said, "Jaw, not war." That means dialogue, dialogue, talk, address the concerns. And I actually think that the main concerns is uncontrolled immigration. And it's the elephant in the room, and they're not saying it. But I think that's the problem. Anybody else want to come in on that?
I totally agree.
Yeah, either they're really stupid or they're really evil. I've said this before. It's not they're not listening. They know exactly what's going on. I'm going to be honest. I think they're doing this on purpose to deflect from the real reasons that there's unrest, which has been brewing in this country for a while now. This didn't just start the other Friday with what happened in Southport, which, to be fair, was pretty sad. Sympathies go out to the family on that one. But since our last podcast, this has escalated to... Wow. I mean, I want to read something out if I can, and it's from Brendan ONeal.
Oh, so these are Brendan ONeal's words?
Well, it was on Twitter, and it's Brendan ONeal's words, I believe. So I won't read the first line because it swears, but it says, "We told you the politics of identity was toxic. We told you that reducing everyone to their racial characteristics was a dangerous game. We have, haven't we, for years? We told you that treating some identities as oppressed and thus good and others as privileged and thus bad was a recipe for social conflict. We told you that demonising white men as the source of the nation's every ill would generate resentment. We told you your identitarian ideology would inflame racial grievance and even racial violence. We told you time and time again. For the city elite to now look with such startled horror that the racial riots rocking England is too much to take. It was their decades-long experiments in racial micromanagement and grievance mongering that paved the way for this catastrophe. And these riots aren't fascism, they're the grim militant wing of your own radical fatalism." Now, I kind of agree with a lot of what he says, apart from the racial aspect. Because, again, race doesn't exist. But these lefties have managed to boil it down again, this whole argument to black and white, basically, without any grey in the middle, which seems to be a massive problem here in society, doesn't it? It's far more nuanced. And we'd be here for 3 hours trying to explain why different people are taking different actions to protest or use violence, etc., etc. For him to just come out with this, as Trevor said, it's just stoking the flames.
Trevor?
Yeah, people have been asking me over the last few days, because of obviously what I deal with and what I do, why this has come about. And I said, to use an analogy, it's a pressure cooker that's been going on. This has been going on for 10 years. It's not been going on for it's not happened last week.
Oh, the Conservatives are not without guilt on this one.
No, I'm not. Labour's only been in for 4 weeks. and this has been a pressure cooker, and they're all guilty of it. They've all been in Parliament for 10 years, Jonathan. Yep. The majority of them have, right? And it's a pressure cooker when they keep putting in the ingredients of favour to one community above another, ingredients of mass immigration, and they keep adding the ingredients. Until finally that pressure cooker blows, and that happened last Monday. That happened, and that is where we are now.
Well,
and it's that simple.
We have, for the first time that I've ever witnessed, we have somebody from the church who is backing the majority. And it is a man called the Reverend Canon Phil Harris. And he's speaking out, and he's saying, today there is an uprising across this once great nation as the political liberal elite have removed themselves and placed themselves above the people they are supposed to serve. And he's directing this at Labour. And he's saying, you received a mandate on the back of the lowest electoral turnout for decades, and probably the second lowest turnout through general elections in UK history. You gained a mere 11 million votes, which means that nearly 39 million people did not vote for you and are not interested in your policies. And yet you have the audacity and the propensity to insult the majority, the silent majority of our nation. And he goes on and he says, in recent days, we've seen an army officer stabbed 12 times. We've seen riots in Leeds for 3 days where your government was incapable or unwilling to take action other than to return a vulnerable child to the family from whence the child was required to be removed for concerns over their well-being. 2 thugs violently assaulted 3 armed officers in an airport, breaking the nose of a female officer, and they've not even been charged. Then riots in Rotherham for the same people who committed the assaults. 3 little girls murdered. Let me say that again. 3 little girls were murdered at a holiday club. 10 were injured. Yeah. And yet you allow the mainstream media to portray the mass murderer as a sweet choir boy. Sword fights and machete attacks occurred in Southend. 28 men were convicted of gang raping a British girl, receiving 400 years because of their crimes. And those crimes have been so revolting and brutal that they can't even be published. And he goes on. He said, we've seen decades of Islamic terrorism. And then recently, pro-Palestinian and Black Lives Matter marches that you never condemned because of the Labour Mayor of London and your large Muslim voter base. Now, is this guy talking? Is he going to get a visit from the police?
Well,
because if he does, and they bring the church into it, then that is really going to cause problems. I mean, I don't know whether you're aware of what's happening in Spain, and Spain is a mainly Catholic country. Marches on the streets shouting, Islam out. This is a Christian country. And they are literally in massive numbers. So you're going to get people who are just normal majority who are not Christian in nature, undermining and attacking the government for these policies. And you're also going to get, I mean, I wouldn't imagine it from Welby because, you know, Archbishop Welby is one of the weakest people I've ever seen. He's not even said a word. And yet this Reverend Canon Phil Harris, he's actually stated it. He's actually said it straight out. All of this happening while we prostrate ourselves before Islam, 170 million has gone to mosques. And he's actually saying that there is 2 tiers in the way that this government is treating religion in this country. And that's exactly what he's saying. And to ameliorate what he said, we're happy for people to come here and be part of this nation who want to contribute and integrate, but that is not what you have championed. And he just said it straight out. Straight out. So if you're getting people like him, religious people, coming along and saying, hey, something's not quite right. If Starmer doesn't listen to that, then I don't know what. Go ahead, Trevor. Sorry to be taking so long to, stretch us out.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, Starmer won't listen to that anyway. So while we're on to the mainstream media, I'll go on to something that happened literally 2 hours ago. Grenada News. Starmer said that we're going to stop all this, your social media stuff and all that. But it's fine for the mainstream media to say this. Grenada News, far-right riots. That was a headline. Tamworth, locals cleaned up after hundreds descended on their town to riot. So, as I said earlier on, I've mentioned them towns, and the towns I mentioned, believe me, that's not exhaustive. There are a lot more than that, right? That was just what I had time to look at. So all these towns that I mentioned earlier on, they all had hundreds of far-right thugs descend upon them. Yeah? Really? Okay. So where are all these people coming from? Now, I've looked at lots of these videos for the reason of the podcast tonight, and my observations, right, we have far-right children, we've got far-right women, far-right pensioners, and every one of them has got excellent acting skills, because they did. To me, they all seem to correspond from the areas where they were all shipped into.
Yeah.
I find that odd, right? So just to give an example, it was like there was not a lot of Liverpool accents yesterday in Yorkshire, in Rotherham, when I was watching that. I didn't hear many Liverpool accents.
And we've been watching. I just want to make it clear. We've been watching and analysing the videos that have been coming on from Twitter and other areas. Carry on, Trevor, and then Mark's going to come in.
Yeah. I'm just trying to highlight this because I was watching the ones in Weymouth as well, and I didn't hear many Geordies in Weymouth. So where are these people being shipped to? When I heard, when I heard that people in Liverpool, I heard Liverpool accents. Manchester, I heard Manchester accents. Yorkshire, I heard Yorkshire accents. Listen, people, listen. You're being lied to.
Yeah,
they're lying to you.
They're manipulating the narratives, I think.
They're lying to you. The government are lying to you. The mainstream media are lying to you.
Do you think that they're doing it well-intentioned? I mean, I'm just going to go over to Mark now. Quick comment. Are the intentions to actually try and stem things, or is there an underlying policy that they're actually going to do things? Because I looked at a tweet that Carl Benjamin put out, and he's Sargon of Akkad, and he said, armed gangs of Muslims are now patrolling English cities looking for English to assault, and Starmer has said they are under his protection. And he said, we are an occupied country. Now, that is a serious, that's a serious thing to say. We are an occupied country. Now, that means that he's saying that basically we've been taken over. Basically, I'm thinking, my God, that's not a good sign. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think this is probably a question for Labour, actually. If it's impossible to vote out of this situation, and then people can't protest due to the two-tiered policing and the different treatment of the two sides, what is their outlet for solving this problem? I only say this because I've seen this on some of these videos. Now, I don't watch the mainstream media. I actually watch people's live feeds from the beginning of these protests until, obviously, the end, and whoever's filming it and whenever violence breaks out, etc., etc. And people have been asking the police questions and they can't answer. So someone whose family was affected by mass immigration, obviously a sexual assault, they asked the police what is it they're meant to do, and they don't get any answers to this. Now, Keir Starmer, as you say, should have been coming out and really be on the side of lawful people.
Yeah,
but he isn't, is he?
No, he's backing them all together as bad guys.
Yeah, so why, when something happens, it's all about community cohesion, but now he just lumps everyone under one label? Now, as Trevor's just said, there's people. Right, I don't agree with this looting of shops and burning of properties.
No, that's wrong.
It's not solving anything. But these people are sociopaths. As I said, this situation's really complicated. You can't just boil it down to it's black and white. There's a lot of grey in the middle. So are you going to stop people who just want to burn things from burning things? Because they're just going to jump on the bandwagons. It happens in all the BLM riots. It happens on everything. I think you remember a few years ago, Left Wing burnt down and attacked a police station in Bristol, didn't they? Was there this reaction?
Yeah.
No, there wasn't, was there? So what are the police and Labour and everyone going to say to the people who were attacked by these Muslim gangs for peacefully protesting?
Yeah.
These are genuine questions. None of this stuff Keir Starmer or his bunch of idiots are ever going to answer. They're just going to boil it down to the basic black and white. Yeah, because they want it like this. This is the problem. You see, they're not listening. They're never going to listen, which tells me they're doing this on purpose.
Okay, so there's a preconceived policy there to actually change the nature of this country.
Well, yes, just double down on their stupidity, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, well...
that's what they do. They don't know anything else. They can't think rationally. They can't think. This is the problem.
I don't think that the government have quite realized how unfit for purpose they are, because they've mismanaged this whole situation. And if they're being advised by civil servants to do what they're doing, then it's utter madness. They cannot carry on because it's become obvious. And if it becomes obvious to us, it's going to become obvious to people like Elon Musk. It's going to become obvious to Russia, who can take advantage of the mistakes that this government are making by not listening, because the majority of the people are not violent. But he's clubbing everybody in with the same tag. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to reform policy now, because we need to deal with this. We need answers.
Yep.
We need actions, and we need to deal with it. And if ever there was a case of calling a national emergency, it's now.
Totally agree.
We need to call a national emergency for our country. We need to suspend for 3 years illegal immigration into the shores.
Or uncontrolled immigration as well.
Yeah, uncontrolled immigration. I'm on about the migrants that are coming across on the boats. And It's not, I'm not going at them. I'm just saying this is a national emergency now. The public of this country, the public have had enough, not the far-right fascists, etc. The people of this country have had enough. We need to call in an emergency, a national emergency, which is what we're in at the moment. And we need to say, right, we need to stop these boats coming in. We'll put the Navy across the English waters, and we'll just say, you're going back. When the dinghies come across, no, you're not coming across anymore. You're going back to where you came from. Stop the boats, turn them around, send them back to where they come from for 3 years until we sort the situation out. We get rid of the backlog or whatever you want to do. You sort the situation out for 3 years. You put the army in the channel. You're not coming across.
Mark?
They have to listen to everyone's concerns, not just certain minorities, but they won't. Fair play to the mainstream media. Again, I don't say this very often. Can't exactly remember who it was, but somebody actually asked two-tier Keir Starmer if he was going to do anything about this and reduce immigration. And you can imagine what his reply is. Full force of the law and all that. He's not interested. He's not interested in actually fixing this problem.
Well, the only peaceful way that people can actually bring them to the table and the police is for 39 million people to just sit down towels, don't work, don't go into work. Now, that's not incitement or insurrection. That is peaceful protest. And I don't care what anybody says. I can remember that was suggested in Australia over the COVID restrictions that were brought in by that government that were in at the time. And one of the guys, who was one of the big leaders against the COVID restrictions, turned around and he said, okay, everybody down tools, don't go into work, bring the economy to a standstill. Mark?
I think, like some of the people who are just burning and looting because they're sociopaths, I actually think Keir Starmer is, and a lot of his government, because they are literally sitting here watching it burn.
Yep.
They literally, it disappears to me like they want this to burn. Anyone else would try and calm this whole thing down before this country erupts into something no one wants.
Everybody in this country deserves leadership. We deserve somebody to bring it together and say, look, we can't have a divided house. A divided house will fall. That's it. End of story. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
I forgot where I was up to then, but
I'm sorry.
When there's a massive problem, the leaders need to just quell this. But as I keep saying, they're not, are they? They're stoking the flames over and over again. He's not mentioned anything about gangs of Muslims running around with weapons. They just and what they keep doing is every time something happens, they keep doubling down with this two-tiered stuff. So when the Muslims are running around with weapons, clearly, like they couldn't care less. They're running through town centres, balaclaved up with weapons. And the community support officer, whatever, said, can you please put your weapons back in the mosque now? Everyone's gone home. So you think that's going to stop it? Because then the next day, everyone's seen that. And it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going until this absolute clown does something about this. I'm surprised he's not blaming the Conservatives more, because that's normally their playbook, isn't it? But I think he's found his angle to attack his imaginary Nazis, fascists, far right. Again, they're using words in an argument that aren't logical and don't make sense. So how is it ever going to be fixed unless you actually work out what's going on properly?
Who are the real Nazis here? That's the question. Because I'm feeling like I'm a prisoner in my own country. That's what I'm feeling like. And I'm feeling like that I'm having laws that are covertly being introduced, which are going to restrict my freedoms. And I'm not happy about that. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I said to somebody the other day, picture this as a scenario. They set up a protest and everybody goes to Manchester, they go to Liverpool, they go to Bristol, they go to Middlesbrough, they get to where they're going and they sit down. I don't mean sit on the road. I don't mean like Stockport. I don't mean block the road. I mean go to where you're going, go to Piccadilly Gardens or all the equivalents all over the country. Get there with all the riot squad, all the police, all the dogs and everything, and just sit down.
Yeah, non-violent.
Non-violent, just sit down as a protest. What would happen then? How would they control that?
Yeah.
All the riot police all geared up and you're all sat down on the floor or a bench or a chair.
It would show if the police went in or they sent horses in, it would show that they are being manipulated.
Ah, right. So that would be better.
Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
That's never going to happen, I'm afraid, Trev, because even when you try and do it like that, it doesn't work like that because the police will use tactics. So if you watch the protest in Liverpool, it was very peaceful. Lots of people just stood there. And then Merseyside police marched Antifa with communist flags dressed like Hamas to within about 20 metres of the protest. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to get everyone sitting there ignoring it. Everyone went over to confront them. And then the police made a massive, massive, massive boo-boo because they didn't get them out quick enough. And half the crowd went round the other side of the road. And then Antifa were trapped for 3 hours while there was running battles on the Strand. So even when it's peaceful, they'll find a way somehow to make it non-peaceful. And even if it is peaceful, even on the side of the protesters, there's going to be people in there who've had a beer and are just there, like Trev said before, to just fight with the police, young people who don't really understand this situation in the slightest.
Yeah.
But some of them might know something's going on. They might have been affected. Family members might have been harassed or, touched by some of these migrants. Some of them, maybe not, but they're just in for the ride, aren't they? Because that's what a lot of young people do.
The only way that we would find out whether or not the inference or the implication of what you're saying is true is to be able to see all communications that the police have. And they'll never release them under a freedom of information request.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, is it?
No, you've got to look at each of these protests and each of these riots and look at what's actually started them in that area and who the people are and what's going on and why. And you're never going to figure this out. But just stoking the flames, well done. That's really going to sort it out, isn't it?
To be honest, I actually feel, even though I'm very, very disillusioned over what's going on, I feel that in the podcast, we've covered an awful lot of different subjects within the events that are going on and what we've witnessed on video and what we've seen. And believe me, I've looked at everything, and I know that Trevor has, and I know that you have, Statsman. You've looked at all sides of the argument, and we're just portraying things as we see them. It's as simple as that. I don't know what Starmer's going to do. My feeling is that if he doubles down and carries on turning his back on those people, because a lot of those people are Labour voters, and maybe they are suffering from buyer's remorse on giving their vote to Starmer. Go ahead, Mark.
This is the way this has been handled is just really low level IQ or just evil. Why can't the government sit down and have these conversations? It's not just us saying that. I've seen people on the let's say mainstream media, more like your talk TVs, not being a bit more rational and trying to work out what's going on and how do we fix it? Because I mean, what's happening is, and you can see it, I'm looking at this from all angles, you can see it from the Islamic point of view. If someone's on the telly telling people that the EDL are just going around attacking Muslims and mosques and things, well, what would you expect them to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
So honestly, they're gaslighting them too.
That's actually caused something called the Muslim Defense League. They've come into existence now.
I mean, in some situations, yeah, they might be going to mosques and doing things like that, but Keir Starmer's making it like the whole country's doing it, and he's not breaking each situation down. And I honestly don't think these people are clever enough to do this.
What I feel is that
it's worrying,
and especially from what you said, I feel that the whole of the issues involved are far more nuanced than people would actually really believe. But I can't believe that a Christian would go out and butcher 10 children. I can't believe that would be the case. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm lost for words because some of these events are being forgotten and basically the riots are being portrayed and taken away and deflecting from the bad things that have happened. And if they can actually orchestrate these courts so quickly to actually get these protesters, why can't they do it for the people that have actually committed the crimes?
Which is why we're in this situation in the first place. Possibly.
There you go. Final word from the Gazelle. Go on, sir.
Well, I'm going to take this to a higher level. As you know, I say usual things at the end of our podcast, and I'm going to do it again tonight because I think we need to lighten this up.
Yeah, go on.
Although one of them is quite controversial, as you'll hear. So I love these, as we was on about dad jokes the other week, and I love these, I do. Bugs Bunny went to the hospital. He went for some tests, so it's not funny. And the doctor said, so are we going to contact you then, Bugs? And he said, what's that, Doc? Right, that was one. And I thought, right. So, and I've come across something the other night where one of the lads warned me about. He said it's just a warning about, it's to all single men, and that includes yourself and me, Mark, that just be careful out there and do not join the Tesco dating site. They started a dating site up. My mate did it, as I said, and he ended up with a bag for life. So that's something else you'll be careful of. And just to finish off on the last one, I mean, this is a bit controversial in the subject we've had tonight, but I don't care. And I've just had some great financial news tonight, boys. It's been good news tonight. The boy I was sponsoring in Africa, which I've been doing for 2 years now, he's just been eaten by a lion. So that's more money coming back to the bank.
You're not going to sponsor the lion?
Well, I've not looked into that yet. I do actually, now you've mentioned that, I do sponsor Red Ring, which is a donkey sanctuary, but I don't want to go into that.
Aye.
We're going straight back to my OnlyFans page, and we're not going to discuss that anymore.
Oh, is that because you want a refund, is it?
You're not having a refund. It's not no income tax, no VAT, no refund, no guarantee. It does say on the page.
That sounds like Trotter Trading Company. No income tax, no VAT.
No money back, no guarantee. It does say it on the page. I mean, you've got to read the small print. It is small.
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you very much for those light-hearted interjections there. I can honestly say that there is nothing in that podcast that anybody could say is controversial or inciting anything of any nature. And if they do...
Starmer will.
Huh? Well...
Keir Starmer will. He'll find something.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to be around for that much longer. I'm sure of it. Exterminate.
That's funny, that.
Exterminate.
That was the meme, wasn't it? Exterminate. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts, gentlemen. And I am using the term loosely in Trevor's case. Obviously, Statsman. Statsman is a real gentleman.
I will take that.
Yeah.
He sees all sides of the argument. Me, I'm a Christian soldier. As far as I'm concerned.
It came across, and as listeners of our podcast, I will shove it where that person shoved the 25 plastic soldiers last week. Plastic horses.
Stable. Say goodnight, Mark.
Good night to our lovely listeners. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to tune in next time for another one of our wonderful podcasts.
Indeed. Thank you. Yes, I am wonderful. I know.
Well, I was more talking about me and the Gazelle, but you press some buttons. Suppose you're valuable, yeah.
I mean, the Raven actually rang me the other night just to see how our podcast were going. He said, is our landlord still wonderful? I said, yeah, he's beautiful as well. Beautiful, wonderful. He's
never shuts up about it, does he?
artistic. No, he keeps telling us every week.
I have to.